I had always thought that the day would be like any other, ordinary and predictable, but I was wrong. That morning started like any other. The sun seeped softly through the curtains, casting a golden hue across the room. I went about my routine, quietly humming to myself, trying to keep my mind occupied. Life in my in-laws' house had always been a delicate balance, moments of comfort mingled with undercurrents of tension, especially around my father-in-law. He was a man of strong opinions, meticulous and sometimes unpredictable, and every interaction with him felt like walking on a thin line. As I moved around the house, trying to tidy up before anyone noticed, a sudden knock at the door made me pause. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze for a moment, thinking perhaps it was my husband. But no, the door slowly creaked open, and there he was, my father-in-law, standing there with that stern look I had come to both respect and fear. There was an air of authority in his presence, yet beneath it, I sensed a flicker of curiosity, something that told me he was about to witness something entirely unexpected. I tried to act normal, masking the nervous flutter in my chest. Little did I know that what he saw in that moment would become one of the defining experiences of my life. I had been caught in a private moment, something I hadn't intended anyone to see. But instead of judgment, I saw a strange softness in his eyes, a hint of understanding, though tempered by his surprise. I realized then that sometimes people see us in ways we never expect, not as we appear on the surface, but as they sense the truth of our hearts. He didn't immediately say anything. We stood there, the silence thick with unspoken questions and tentative thoughts. I felt a surge of panic, but also a strange calm, as if the moment itself demanded honesty. And so I spoke, haltingly at first, revealing my thoughts, my fears, and the little struggles that had silently shaped my days. The vulnerability in my voice was palpable, and I saw the walls around him soften just a little. It was strange, almost surreal, how a single, unintended moment could transform the dynamics of our relationship. I expected reprimand, perhaps even a stern lecture, but instead, he listened. He truly listened. And in that listening, I felt a bond that had never been there before, a connection forged not by routine interactions or polite exchanges, but by raw, human honesty. We spoke for what felt like hours. I shared little details of my life, my dreams, and even my quiet frustrations. He shared stories of his past, moments of regret, and the silent challenges he had faced as a father and a husband. I realized that for all his authority, he too was just a person, shaped by experiences, sometimes misunderstood, and always human. The room seemed smaller somehow, intimate, as though the walls themselves had leaned in to listen to our exchange. There were moments of awkward laughter, quiet pauses where words seemed insufficient, and moments when our eyes met with a recognition that transcended conventional roles. I saw him not just as my father-in-law, but as a man with emotions, complexities, and a capacity for understanding that I had never truly acknowledged before. And in that recognition, I discovered my own strength, the courage to embrace vulnerability without fear of judgment. As the day wore on, I realized that nothing would ever be quite the same again. That single encounter, unexpected and unplanned, had shifted the balance of our household in subtle but profound ways. It wasn't about blame or embarrassment or even misunderstanding. It was about seeing each other honestly, without pretense, and recognizing the shared humanity in our experiences. I didn't regret that moment, not for a second. Because in that moment, I had discovered something invaluable: the power of honesty, the unexpected kindness of understanding, and the fragile yet enduring strength of familial bonds. It was a lesson I carried quietly, a reminder that sometimes the most transformative experiences come from the moments we least anticipate. By the evening, our conversation had ended, but its echoes remained. There was a new warmth in our interactions, a subtle shift that made ordinary days feel a little brighter, a little more genuine. My father-in-law, once a figure of distant authority, had become someone whose presence brought both challenge and comfort, a paradox I had never expected but welcomed wholeheartedly. Reflecting on that day, I understood that life is full of such unexpected intersections, moments where fear and vulnerability collide, and where honesty can dissolve barriers we never knew existed. I had learned to embrace those moments, to face them without hesitation, and to trust that even in situations that seem uncomfortable or intimidating, there is room for understanding, compassion, and connection. And so, as I moved through the days that followed, I carried that lesson with me. Every interaction, every shared glance, every quiet conversation was tinged with the memory of that unexpected encounter. It was a reminder that relationships, no matter how formal or strained, are built not on perfection, but on moments of truth, honesty, and the willingness to see and be seen. In the end, I realized that life's most profound lessons often come disguised as small, ordinary moments, a glance, a conversation, a shared silence. And sometimes, the moments we least expect to matter become the very moments that shape us, define us, and remind us of our capacity to connect, forgive, and grow. That day, my father-in-law saw me in a way I never anticipated, and I didn't regret it. Not because it was easy, or because it was simple, but because it revealed a truth that had been waiting patiently to be discovered, that vulnerability is not weakness, that understanding is a gift, and that the bonds we share with others, however complicated, are strengthened by the courage to be honest and open. As the weeks turned into months, our home felt different. There was a subtle ease in the air, a quiet acknowledgement that we had crossed a threshold together into a space of mutual respect and understanding. I often thought back to that morning, the way it had begun so unremarkably and yet had transformed into something so unforgettable. It reminded me that life is unpredictable and that the moments which challenge us the most often teach us the lessons we need the most. And so I carried forward, embracing both the ordinary and the extraordinary, grateful for the day that had changed everything, grateful for the connection that had been forged in an unexpected, unforgettable moment. Because in that day, in that single, unplanned encounter, I discovered a truth that no one can take away: the courage to be seen, the power of honesty, and the enduring strength of human connection. And I never regretted it, not for a second.